Shalom Chaverim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Just a quick take of our broadcast. Good friend Sister Rosa had sent us a message about Chinese companies actually closing shop up in North Korea. Didn't have much more information, but I began to do a little research in the Chinese language. We've actually got a friend of ours that lives over there in China. And so as we began to do a little research, we found out that's exactly the case. 7 hours ago, this particular Chinese news article came out. We used Google Plus to translate down here on the bottom there. I'll try to blow that up just a little bit here for you so you might be able to see that a bit better here. But at any rate, what it is, the Chinese government is actually closing. It says the State Administration for Industries of Commerce of the People's Republic of China issued a notice to implement the UN Security Council Resolution 2375 on the closure of domestic and foreign commercial enterprises. This was done September 28, 2017. China announced that it will close all commercial companies that involve North Korean funds and personnel. The Commerce and Industrial Bureau of Ministry of Commerce of the People's Republic of China issued a notice on Thursday saying that in order to implement the UN Security Council Resolution 2375, China will close all commercial enterprises established by the DPRK entities or individuals within 120 days, including the joint ventures cooperation Korean-owned enterprises. Now, this is not necessarily a declaration that there is going to be a war on the Korean Peninsula, but this is China's effort to try to shun that possibility of having war actually on their right there on their doorsteps there. And in another article here that we translated as well, China, the military means to solve the North Korean nuclear issue is not an option. China still maintaining this posture. That was yesterday on the 27th when China stated this here. The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kang today said the North Korean nuclear issue should be resolved through dialogue. Military means is not an option. China is still holding this. One of the articles here that we looked at as well, also speaking about that the Chinese as well as the Russians will take steps if the U.S. does launch an attack against North Korea, will take steps to ensure that the U.S. military is not on their borders. Now that seems to imply that they both would enter into North Korea to do a buffer zone. That's one of the words that is actually being used, a buffer zone inside of North Korea away from Chinese and Russian borders. Doesn't say in this particular case whether or not China or Russia would get involved in the conflict. As we stated before, Russia seems to indicate as long as weapons of mass destruction are not used, they may refrain from this, but still we have no word as to whether or not China will. They are still calling for dialogue and not the military option. And by their latest actions, closing the companies doing business with North Korea, this may be that final stand with North Korea that China is trying to let them know, look, we've done all we can do, but if the U.S. then comes in, maybe it will involve China as well. Another article in the Russian language, very concerning here. The Russians say that the North Koreans are not even aware at times when the U.S. bombers are actually on their border. They were talking about how that there were B-1 bombers just recently that were flying on the border of North Korea, and the North Koreans were oblivious to their presence. Maybe the U.S. testing out their ability to fly without being detected by radar, and according to Russia, they were able to do exactly that. This also is another Chinese article also speaking about the same thing, that indeed the companies will close, and this is only as a result of China trying to get the North Koreans to stop the nuclear program and come to the negotiating table. And also China showing their effort in trying to actually bring this about to avert a war. So it doesn't look like that it means that there's definitely a war inevitable within the next 120 days, but it is China doing their part, and we'll just have to see how that goes. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Erev Tov.